Hello and welcome to Egg Meets Sperm. In this podcast, we cover everything from fertility, vitality, to humanity. This podcast is all about how the body, mind, and spirit integrate, how the masculine meets the feminine, and how we can integrate the many sides of ourselves to live our fullest potential, and in the process to optimize our fertility and have the family that we've always dreamed of. I'm your host, Dr. Omama. In this season of Egg Meets Sperm, we focus on how the body is consistently talking to us. It's sending us signals about what's happening and how, if we're listening and paying attention, we can help our bodies heal and feel empowered to have our best and optimal fertility. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Juliana Rishi. She is acclaimed for her coaching work with clients ranging from musicians to writers to CEOs and social impact entrepreneurs. She's also the best-selling author of a book called The Power of Practice, which is changing the lives of those who are bettering the world. Juliana began her professional career in a much different fashion, earning her master's degree as a marine scientist. Clearly, her soul had other plans for her. Hello and welcome, Juliana. Great to have you on our podcast today.
Thank you so much. It's really fun to be here. Already it's fun.
Great. I like fun.
Yes. Here we go. Game on.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about the idea of practice. What is the power of practice?
Well, it's cute. The power of practice actually came to me. I didn't want to write a book, I'll be honest. I had a couple manuscripts already sitting on my shelf that went nowhere. And so it was like it just kept tapping me on the shoulder, like, you got to write it. Everywhere I turned, there was the reminder of this concept. And really, the book itself came from the concept. There are so many people who understand and deeply feel the value of universal energy, law of attraction, thoughts become things. And we feel it because something deep inside of us resonates. We know that this is the way the universe actually works. And we attempt to implement it in our lives. But I've seen so many people believe and try and not have things manifest the way they want to. So many of my clients and just people that I'm at workshops with and all that. And then you look and you see the people that they're looking up to, the successful folks. And because I work with a lot of that type of folk as well, I get to see the difference. And the biggest difference that I kept coming back to was the CEO type, the superintendent type. They stay with the practice. They stay with it day in and day out, week in and week out. They don't drop it. And the more right-brained folks, the beauty of the artistic brain is that it's always seeking something new. It's always creating. It's always getting excited at the next new opportunity. But what that means is those folks aren't staying with a practice the same way that the other people are. And so they're constantly meeting some level of failure. So the universe was like, can you just tell people that, like, as much as we don't like discipline, as much as us right-brainers want to just like play with the Crayola box of color and opportunity and fun stuff, there's something about sticking with the practice. And that's how change is made. It takes time. It takes repetition. Just like learning to walk. That's practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I relate to this because I feel like I get bored easily.
Yes. Me too. I wrote the book for me. Writing the book was actually my practice. I would wake up every morning and I would write.
Yeah. I just finished writing my book. It's in processing.
Congratulations.
And, it's been quite a practice. It's been like 3 to 4 years of just like, I need to write this book.
Yes.
This last year, 2016, was really about like getting down and like having a schedule and doing it.
And that's what got it done.
That's finally what got it done.
And it's not sexy and it's not fun, but like it is a critical piece of the puzzle. Same with the people that are great at meditating or yoga or whatever. We see these things online of people in like crazy poses. And I think, do you know what it took them to get there? It took discipline. It took practice, So I felt like it was that missing ingredient that nobody really wanted to talk about because it doesn't sell so well. But my heart was breaking for the fact that people were losing faith in the universe, really.
Mm-hmm.
Losing faith in the way that the universe works,
Mm-hmm.
which is just stay with, we do have to stay with something.
Right. And there's this whole idea of like, oh, I can just manifest, meaning I'm just going to draw it in and it's going to magically appear. And that's really sexy.
It is.
But there's a lot that leads up to that point.
And it's fun. This is, I feel like, almost the crux of the book. And I wish I could tell you what chapter. It might be chapter 12. There's 18 chapters. They're short and fun. But from my experience, my studies, my learning, I actually do believe that that's the way the universe works, that we do as souls manifest the physical world around us. The catch is that we all were brought in to this time and place as humans that has taught us, if I want the book, which happens to be next to me, in my hands, I have to reach out my hands and get very Newtonian, right? Mm-hmm. Ball A hits ball B and causes this to happen. It's a physical cause and effect that we were brought up with. Nobody said, hey, Juliana, if you want that book in your hands, just think it into your hands and it will be there. So I've had 40 something years of conditioning that I have to physically make things happen. So to think I can suddenly say, oh no, now I think and things will happen, it doesn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we need to do the spiritual and the human combined.
Together.
Yeah.
I like that. And I think that there's something about this, like you talked about discipline. Tell me about, like, that word is just, at least in a lot of circles that I move in, that word is like,
it's loaded. Yes. I have to tell you, this girl too. I said in the book, there was a period of time for like 3 years where I could not remember the word discipline. It would come up in conversation. I'd be like, well, you just need some, what's that word? Starts with a C or a D. You got to stay with it. Like, I had a dead zone in my brain over the word discipline because I resisted it apparently so strongly. Uh-huh. That said, and I'm sure you're the same way. If you have a doctor of homeopathy, is that what you said?
Naturopathic.
Yeah. You know how to be disciplined. Like, there are places in your life where you put your head down and you get stuff done. Totally. I sometimes think we burn ourselves out of the discipline so that when it comes time to our own work, we're like, I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the energy to dig deep and get disciplined on this. And one of the things that I hope I help shift people with during the course of the book, because it's a stepwise, it's a process-oriented book, and you're doing exercises to peel back layers, and it's fun and it's good and it's easy. But I hope that it helps people understand that, like, discipline doesn't have to be that whole thing that you're talking about, because when we understand the value of it, it really builds up, I think, our willingness to say, oh, okay, the thing that I want really is only coming through some level of practice. I use that word because it's gentler than discipline. And therefore, one day at a time, I can show up today. Mm-hmm. I can show up today. Right. So, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
That word, the D word.
Yeah.
Not a there's a chapter, discipline is not a 4-letter word.
There's also that opposite aspect, which I can is probably like maybe coming up for some people that are listening, is there's that piece of, when do you know that you're pushing against something that isn't supposed to be, right? Like, there's that energy of like, I'm just going to go and do it, and I'm going to, like, stick it out and keep going and keep going. And no matter what, I'll just keep going. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because I can totally see that, like, a lot of, even with my clients, a lot of women that are trying to get pregnant, they have this, like, I'm going to get pregnant. And I'll do whatever you tell me to do, right? And often, like, my approach to it all is, like, to really check in and see if I'm the right person to help this person. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I get a no. And I don't know like, I don't follow the people that I don't work with, but I'm curious if they weren't meant to get pregnant. And it feels scary to say that, but there are actually people that it's not my work. Like, I'm not supposed to support these people. And I don't know what the reason is, but it could be that I could take these people on and they're like, yeah, we're just going to like do what we can and just keep going. And to know when to stop is like just almost as important.
I feel like you answered the question the way I would have, like your example was my answer, which was, for me and everything I've seen be successful with my clients is that it's the yin and the yang. It's the soft and the hard together. It's the being committed and saying like, I am doing this, but to have a softness around it, to check constantly to make sure that it is either the right path. And actually, when I heard you saying that like some clients aren't for you, I didn't go to they aren't meant to get pregnant. I heard you're not the right fit healer. And that's not judging you and that's not judging them. It's just saying, I mean, I always say to people, the most important thing in finding a guide or a teacher or a healer is how do you resonate with them? Because if nothing else, the placebo effect has a lot to do with things, right? When we convince ourselves, it's real. When we believe it's going to happen, it's much more likely to happen. So I think having that determination, but with the constantly exploring, getting feedback of, is this the right path? Is this the right time? Is this am I getting messages again? And I will also say, it's almost like the $1 million question, because if there was a rule book, a guidebook about, am I facing a block because I'm blocked, or I'm facing a block because the universe is telling me this isn't the right move? Like, that would be an awesome rule book to have, a playbook right there. And I don't have it. I guide people into, because the thing is, it's different in every scenario. It's different for every person. And so it's that inner knowing. I have a game that I teach clients. I call it the expansion contraction game. Whereas if you're trying to decide between a couple things, like for you, say if you're looking at or one of your clients, let me do that. If they meet with you and they're trying to say, is this the right path for me to work with her? They go in their body. I always close my eyes, go in my body and imagine working with you. And does that cause them to like relax and expand and open and feel good? Or does it cause them to contract? And then clear that and then imagine not working with you. And I mean, my guess based on you is that typically the amount of guidance and support and love that you share with people would cause them to expand. But there are going to be some people who are like, she's not like they won't know why you're not the right fit. I suspect they feel it as you do. Yeah.
And that's a great tip. I might actually start sharing that with people because I often, when I do my initial consultations, I often sit with people and then I'm like, it doesn't sound like you're really clear on what you want right now. So I'd rather you like go sit with it and let me know what you come up with. And they're always like, what? You're not going to try to sell me on something? And I'm like, no, it's not my job.
No, and it's not going to work.
Right.
Like you can't force this into being. Them showing up ready.
Right.
Like you're the guide and you can open some things, but if they're not ready, if they're closed off or something, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
Why you bang your head against the wall? Versus it's so juicy when people come and they're ready and they're open for your approach.
Yeah. And I love like the people that are actually really ready do actually have that expansive energy throughout our entire work together. And most of them have been successful. So it's like, you have to wonder what it is. I feel
the same way with my client. I just talked with someone today and I was like, oh, I love the tribe that I have, right? Because you want to attract people that resonate with you because that's who you are meant to serve.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You're not meant to serve. I'm not meant to serve everybody.
No. And we should only it should be that joy and fun of working with someone, supporting them and like for me, the joy is also like seeing people transform in the process. And I'm sure that's true for your work too.
100%. Well, they come to me for the transformation. They might not realize that they're coming to you for the transformation. Right? That might be,
they think they're coming to me for the medical stuff.
Yeah. I will say the ripple effect of what transforms in my clients' lives is, I use the term like magical or miraculous because I don't have another term. But as you witness, because it's all energy, it's all connected. When you loosen up one part of something that they wanted to focus on, the ripple effect just goes and affects other parts of their lives too. So fun. Yeah. That's why we do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great. So tell me a little bit about, let's see. What do I want to know more about? I'm sure you have some great stories. Do you have an example to share with us about what discipline and practice has done for someone in their life?
Sure. Let me think.
Besides you writing your book. I mean,
well, it's funny because I was like, the example I use in my book is actually a good one. And I think one of the reasons I like the example in my book, I'm trying to think, should I talk about the clients? No, because those are juicier stories. Like they're more in depth. Mine's kind of a surface level, so it's just a real quick one. No. Decisions. Okay, I'll tell you about mine. So I was having a little bit of a pity party one day because the book, I started writing it about 2 years ago as my practice. I'd wake up and I'd sit and actually on my computer with my eyes closed and I just like free float, whatever came through. Cool. And then it fell off for a bit. And I was having a little pity party for myself about why haven't things changed the way I want, kind of the sort of reason why I'm writing the book is, has the universe abandoned me? Like I've been working so hard at expanding my business and just, making my mark in a bigger way in the world. And it hasn't happened. And then I was like, really, the only thing that's changed in the past, year or two is that I'm in better shape than I've ever been. And then I was like, oh my God, that's the one thing that I have stuck with for the past year and a half or however long it was. Like I would go to the gym and then I wouldn't go, but I'd always end up going back. Mm-hmm. So the whole principle of the power of practice is, not the whole. We have to stick with things, but we are human and we're going to fall off. Mm-hmm. And so, when my kids were sick, I wouldn't show up, or summer vacation, I wouldn't show up as much because I like to spend it with the kids, but I'd always go back to the gym. I'd stay with it. And so to me, that was just kind of like how could I be so blind? That level of accountability, it's being in community. It's like all the things I help my clients with. We all think we can make these changes on our own, but I couldn't do that on my own. I couldn't just work out in my basement. Like that was not going to work for me. As much as I can do it by myself, I wasn't going to. The phone would ring and I'd stop 15 minutes into my workout, whatever. So that was one of those where I was like, oh, that's a fabulous example of I'm never going to be so intense that I do something every single day of my life. But every time I fell off the horse with this, I would get back on. I would go back and start up again. Mm-hmm. My other real quick example that I was thinking about telling you was another client who came to me, and she never talked about wanting to lose weight. That wasn't like on her agenda. It was more relationship based and, finding her place in her marriage and with her parents and, as so many of us do. So we did a lot of the type of special energy alchemy backdoor stuff that I do around these other things. And I saw her 3 or 4 months later and she had dropped like 30 or 40 pounds. And I was like, wow, what? And her shift, because of the energy work that we did, enabled her to have the practice of exercising. But what that meant was how to feed her soul, because that was a lot of the work that we did. And so she had staked a new claim on, I'm going to go walk on the beach. I'm going to go walk on the woods. I'm going to go to yoga. I'm going to go rock climbing. Like these things that were fun for her. And because she had shifted her mindset around the practice to make it fun, and this is part of what I walk people through, how to make it so that it's a little bit of a step. None of us have the willpower to force I shouldn't say none of us. Most people reading this book don't have the willpower to force themselves day in and day out. So we want to find a way that it's expansive for them to take on these new steps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really, I think what you said is really awesome, because it's like, we need to make it fun, right?
Yeah.
Like there isn't, a lot of my clients, in terms of like shifting their lifestyle or shifting their habits around food, it's like, well, it's not inherently going to be fun. You just have to find ways that it works for you, and that like the benefit is inherent in doing the action.
Well, and that the benefit outweighs, the drain of it. Because let's be honest, it's a lot more fun to reach for a cheeseburger than for a carrot. I know one person in my life who prefers a carrot to a cheeseburger. The rest of us are like, yummy, yummy. So, but if the shift is enough around, wow, my goal is really to get healthy because I believe that's what's going to help me conceive.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly the carrot's almost a reward, or, it is, at least it's not as much of a horrifying thing.
Right.
As it's been in the past.
Yeah. And I think that, I don't know if you've seen this, but my thought, at least from talking to you and like kind of observing in retrospect some of my clients, is that as they get healthier, those shifts actually become more aligned to who they are. So it becomes easier then to choose that carrot because their cravings are going away.
Well, yeah, the real, like not just the psychological, but the physiological ones. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or like that craving for sugar. And that's always the most obvious, is like the craving for sugar almost always goes away within a month of the work that we do.
I have to say, the sugar amazes me.
Yeah.
It is a real addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's amazing to, when you go to the store and you start reading ingredients and like tomato sauce has sugar in it, like why?
Right.
Why do we need pasta sauce with sugar?
Right.
So just like the most random things, and people will literally text me from the store like, I can't find a tomato sauce that will replace my sauce because everything has sugar.
Wow. Wow.
So it's really, like, we're such in a culture of addiction, and society like feeds those addictions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of a shift in the beginning to like move away from it. But in retrospect, like people can actually have the experience of like, oh, I don't have that craving anymore.
Yeah. It's amazing. Gone. You just have to get over the hump of the headache and the, the old patterns and the changing of the habits. I think the other thing that happens, and this is kind of a bigger, taking a step back, but, people work so hard now, and our energy is drained into I use the visual of a well, and we're constantly like pulling out buckets of water to give to other people, but we're never encouraged to refill our own well. And so we're just walking around drained. So asking somebody to do a practice or to read labels is asking a lot of people, but once they can get over that initial hump and start eating healthier or whatever their practice might be, that's filling their well. And so it's now not as hard to do the other things anymore, to do a little bit more reading of labels or a little bit more healthy eating, because their well's a little bit more fuller. So they themselves, it's almost like the only reward that so many people get is like television, junk food, and news, or like Facebook, right? Like what else do people rely upon at the end of the day when they're tired?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes some willpower, some practice to shift that. But once you do, you don't need to space out as much because you don't feel as empty anymore.
Totally. Yeah. I think that like the filling of the well is a really great analogy, because so many people are depleted all the time.
Yes.
And it's the practice of self-care that fills that well.
It's an amazing practice.
Yeah. And once
it's hard to fight for it. Right. Because people think it's selfish. I would actually think that's a great benefit of people coming to you, is that you don't just give them permission. I imagine you give them the directive, right? Because that's a critical component. I mean, I'm guessing, but from what I've experienced of you, I think is that correct? You tell people they have.
They have to.
What a blessing. Like, you must sit down, or you must,
Yeah. Like, and I try to make it easy. So it's never like you're going to need to spend 3 hours a day doing this practice, but 30 seconds. It's like so simple.
Yeah.
And then they start with 30 seconds and then they'll come back and they'll be like, hey, do you have any new homework for me? And it's just like, sure, I can give you more homework.
Yeah. Well, and what it is a slow progression.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying is so true. Is like, once that well is fuller, they're looking for new ways to fill that well even more.
And it's baby steps. I mean, this is one of the things that I am a big believer in, is that putting too much on someone all at once, or a person putting too high of an expectation on themselves all at once, is setting them up for failure. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get to the gym 4 days a week, even though I haven't worked out in like 20 years. Some people have the willpower to make that happen, but most of us do better building up to
baby
that.
Steps.
Yeah.
And I think that the importance of support along the path, right, is what often a lot of our work is about, is like, how do we support people to get to where they want to be?
Yes.
Whether that's pregnant, whether that's living a healthier life, whether that's having a better relationship. It's like that's the end goal, but what are the steps that are actually going to get you there?
And staying on that path. I think that's one of the biggest things. Yeah. When people, I talk to potential clients who are like, I think I'm going to do this on my own. I'm probably a bit like you, I realize at that point, they're not mine to serve, because they're still in their space of wanting to do it on their own. I wish though that I could see, how does it go for them? Because like the gym for me, it didn't work for me to try to do it on my own. Mm-hmm. And again, there are some really uber disciplined people out there who can do it on their own, but my experience is there aren't that many of them. Most of us, if for nothing else, the conditioning of growing up, of getting the feedback and the encouragement or the nagging, like, that is our pattern. We need some feedback and some support and some encouragement and some structure around the change that we're going to make. Yeah. And so I think that's what you and I both get to do for our clients, is offer that structure, that support. It stays high in their vibration. This is my thinking. Mm-hmm. That if we talk once a week, this is in their vibration. The changes that they're trying to make stay up in, like, this is what I'm doing for this period of my life. Yeah. And without it, we get distracted. Other things take priority. I get it. But the gift about your clients is they have staked a claim on this being a priority in their lives.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that that's true for everyone that comes to work with us, is like, they have something that they're reaching for in their life. And that drive, that commitment is bigger than the commitment to stay where they're at.
Yeah. And it's like an inner pull, I think. It's something moving them from inside forward. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So beautiful.
It still takes discipline. A good friend of mine was like, I think your challenge is to make discipline sexy. Oh, okay. How does one do that? But, his point was well taken, that people want to do things that feel easy. And so how do we make practice easy? And it's things like baby steps and the thought of filling the well. And hopefully in some ways is what I try to do in the book, the knowing that, things can't come through from the non-physical world unless enough attention is paid to them. That's when they can land in the physical world. If you just start a thought, but don't finish, like, I want the new jacket. If it just is a fleeting thought, you never end up with a new jacket. But if you stick with it enough, then it comes through. It comes into your physical experience.
Right. Yeah, that's really brilliant. And I think that that's a really great way to think about how discipline can become more part of reality.
But not super tight discipline. I was just thinking about with your clients in particular, but I think anyone, if we're like, I gotta have it, like the people that want the boyfriend, I gotta have it. There's just the tightness around it holds it away.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, that solid commitment with the softness around it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So beautiful. So with that, we'll end our podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Egg Meets Sperm. If you want more information about holistic fertility, pregnancy, or postpartum, go to www.holisticfertilitycenter.com. You can find us on social media through the links in the show notes below. And if you're trying to conceive, I would love to invite you to join our secret Facebook community called Positive Fertility, where the discussions are not about what you can't do, but about embracing your body and empowering your fertility. Again, I'm Dr. Omatma, and we'll see you next time.